Welcome to this explainer. Look, imagine having an absolutely brilliant million-dollar business idea, but the bank won't even give you the time of day without a massive mountain of collateral. It's incredibly frustrating. Today, we're unpacking how an innovative digital ecosystem, Kendex PLC, is utilizing blockchain technology and strict financial regulations to tear down those walls and completely rewrite the rules of wealth creation in Africa. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We're going to explore the core problem holding back African innovation, and then unpack the fascinating technological and regulatory solutions designed to fix it. Starting right off with Section 1, the African financing gap, and really understanding this capital roadblock. It's a critical question, right? Why are so many high-potential businesses across Kenya and really the wider African region hitting an absolute brick wall? I mean, they've got the innovative ideas, they've got the market demand, but their growth engine just stalls out. The disconnect here is just stark. Think about traditional banks. They demand high collateral, they rely on these agonizingly slow approval procedures, and they use incredibly rigid lending structures. It's honestly like trying to power a smart city with dial-up internet. But on the flip side, we have emerging enterprises. These are highly innovative startups with massive economic potential, but they critically lack the affordable financing they need to actually launch. The old systems are simply not built to serve dynamic companies like these. So what happens? Well, the cost of this gap doesn't just hurt the individual business owner. The collateral damage is huge. It completely slows down entrepreneurship and stalls innovation across the board. Plus, everyday investors are basically locked out of participating in these high-growth opportunities. It limits job creation and stops everyday people from generating real, meaningful wealth. Moving on to part 2, let's introduce Kendex PLC, which acts as a real technological bridge for capital. Enter Kendex PLC. They're emerging as one of Kenya's most innovative fintech companies, positioned right at the forefront of Africa's digital economy as a subsidiary of 241 Ltd. But here's what gives them serious grounding. They're the first public company associated with the Chandaria Business Innovation and Incubation Center at Kenyatta University. So they aren't just floating in the clouds somewhere, They're strategically and physically rooted right in Kenya's innovation landscape. Their core purpose is beautifully simple. Kendex connects entrepreneurs directly with investors using technology-driven capital market solutions. They act as that seamless bridge we desperately need, connecting these two previously isolated groups, startups that need capital and investors looking for alternative opportunities. And they bypass those old, rigid gatekeepers entirely. Which brings us to Section 3, building a digital investment ecosystem and bridging that gap with blockchain. So, how exactly do they pull this off? Well, it's through digital asset investment-based crowdfunding. Basically, this is a highly transparent, fully inclusive method of raising capital through a modern digital ecosystem, and it's all powered by blockchain technology and digital finance solutions. By using blockchain, Kendex pulls funding out of that slow, high collateral banking system we talked about and shifts it into a structured, highly efficient digital alternative. This creates what they call a dual marketplace, which brilliantly solves both sides of our initial problem. If you're an entrepreneur or an SME, you get sustainable access to growth capital that exists totally beyond traditional banking limits. And if you're an everyday investor, well, you finally get inclusive opportunities to participate in high-growth alternative investments inside a safe, structured environment. Entrepreneurs get the fuel to scale, and investors finally get a seat at the table. It's a win-win. Now let's hit Section 4. The power of regulation, and how we ground all this innovation in trust and compliance. Because let's be totally honest for a second. When you hear terms like blockchain or digital assets, it can sometimes sound a bit like the Wild West, right? But Kendex grounds its framework in absolute legitimacy. They are strictly regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, operating right under the Capital Markets Investment-Based Crowdfunding Regulations of 2022. And looking ahead, they're already aligned with the soon-to-be-enacted Virtual Assets Service Provider Act. This isn't some fly-by-night operation. It's a highly structured, legally compliant digital marketplace. Actually, Stanley Gendra, the CEO of Kendex PLC, hits the nail on the head here. He says, for entrepreneurs, the regulated environment provides a clear pathway to raise funds for innovative projects, while investors can participate in a growing market with a better understanding of the associated risks. The absolute key takeaway here is balancing that rapid, exciting technological innovation with a very clear, transparent understanding of risk. And regulated platforms like this are no longer just a fringe idea. They are quickly becoming a key pillar of Kenya's entire financial ecosystem. They are providing the exact capital necessary to fuel the next major wave of innovation. This is not a temporary trend, folks. These compliant digital platforms are permanently reshaping the financial bedrock of the country.
Which leads us to our final section, number 5, democratizing Africa's capital and completely reshaping wealth creation.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at the ultimate Kendex vision, which operates in 3 clear steps. First, democratize capital markets through technology. Second, unlock that massive entrepreneurial potential. And third, accelerate economic development across Kenya and the wider African continent. This really proves that their mission goes so much further than just funding a single startup, right? It's about stimulating massive, continent-wide economic growth. So as technology continues to just tear down those old, rigid barriers to capital that we looked at earlier in this explainer, we are standing on the precipice of a massive shift. Imagine a future where a truly great idea isn't stopped dead in its tracks by a lack of traditional collateral, but is instead fueled by a community of empowered digital investors.
If you're curious and want to explore this regulated digital ecosystem for yourself, you can easily connect with Kendex PLC. Check out their website at kendex.co.ke, drop them an email, or even stop by their offices on the 2nd floor of the Chandaria Business Innovation Incubation Center at Kenyatta University. But as we wrap up today, I really want to leave you with this final thought. As we move forward, how will democratized digital capital fundamentally reshape the future of wealth creation in your own community? Who's going to build the next great business simply because they finally have access to funding? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.